Alright, so this is my, I guess it's the Guardian Deadscythe Shadoll deck, or Eatos Shadoll. So I got 3 Deadscythe and 3 Eatos, obviously. Exodios, he's to make sure I have, well, he serves 2 purposes, of course. He's to make sure I have no monsters in my graveyard, so I can summon the Eatos by her special ability. So that's always good. And then he also lets me recycle all my Shadolls. So obviously it's a good thing. You want to keep, especially when you're in the grind, you need the ability to recycle everything so you can, continue battle. So that's part of why he's there. Plus he does activate the Shadoll's effect, so I can declare an attack and send one of the Shadoll monsters to a graveyard and get their effects off. So that's always good. Guardian Deadscythe, same goes for her. Get destroyed by battle card effect. I can discard a Shadoll card to resurrect it, then get the Shadoll's effect. So that's awesome, right? So that's the reason why I built this deck, was the fact that Deadscythe does activate the effect. Plus, who doesn't want to try and play the the Guardian cards, right? Gotta try to find a way to use them. So this is one way I found out how to use them. I got Shadoll Falcon. He's a tuner, 2-star. You can use them with Eatos or with Deadscythe, and you can go into Leo if you want. So there's that ability. I have Gustav Mask in the extra deck if you ever end up in a scenario where you summon Exodios, returning all your Shadolls back into your deck. Then let's say you Parmerizate or Shadoll fusion materials from your hand to the graveyard to summon a monster. Preferably you might want to try to avoid creating Midrash, because then you won't be able to XYZ summon once you summon your second Exodios. But we do have light monsters in the extra deck right here that you can use, Exoton, you can use to create Nephilim, so that way you don't have to worry about the Midrash effect. But anyway, it's all about how you play. You might never make Gustav Max, right? You'll be winning without him anyway. But if you can, he's there. Alright, so back to Falcon. He's flipped. You can special summon a Shadoll monster from your graveyard onto your side of field and face out defense position. When he's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, he special summons himself face down defense position. These effects can only be applied 1 each per turn. So you have to choose between the flip or the send effect. You can only apply them once. So sending multiple copies of Falcons won't get you anything. You only get the effect once. Shadoll Hedgehog, when he's flipped, you can add a Shadoll spell or trap card to your hand. We have Shadoll Fusion, so that's what you'll add. When he's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add a Shadoll monster from your deck to your hand. So that's a good way of getting what you might need in case you need Shadoll Falcon, in case you need a tuner to go with Eatos or Deadscythe, whatever combo you want to go with. He does that. Shadoll Beast, when he's flipped, draw 2 cards, discard a card. If you discard a Shadoll monster by that effect, you'll get the Shadoll monster's effect, obviously. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, draw a card. Shadoll Dragon, flip, target 1 card your opponent controls, return that card to the hand. Since it doesn't destroy, Stardust can't stop it. And that's good again, and this effect is good against monsters that can't be destroyed, or cards that can't be destroyed. Like, let's say a safe zone that's connected to a, what's his name? White Dragon Ninja. You know how White Dragon Ninja will protect safe zone from being destroyed. So use Shadoll Dragon's effect instead, bounce safe zone back to the hand, and then the ninja will be destroyed because the trap card left the field. So his send effect is destroy one spell or trap card on the field. So he's like an MST, or he is MST. Shadoll Lizard. Flip effect, target one monster on the field, destroy. Man-eater effect, right? If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can send a Shadoll card from your deck to the graveyard. You can obviously send Shadoll Fusion to the graveyard if you have a way of getting it back. Or you just send any of your monsters so you can get their effects. It helps you thin out the deck. Shadoll Fusion. You can only activate this one copy per turn. You can fusion summon a Shadoll fusion monster with this, of course. This card does activate the Shadoll's effects. And if your opponent has a monster with special summon from their extra deck, you can use materials from your deck instead of your hand as fusion materials. So that helps you thin out the deck even more. I recommend using Shadoll Lizard as one of the materials, so that way you can get his effect to send another Shadoll monster. So you can take 3 monsters out your deck. You know, thin out the deck, because you're trying to get to the spells and traps as soon as possible, right? Especially with the fact that this is a monster heavy deck. Polymerization, it acts as another Shadoll fusion. You know, it helps you fuse and helps you get the Shadoll's effects off. MST, red screen, staples, you know what to do with them. Call the Haunted has synergy with the Shadoll monsters, because when they're sent by a card effect, you get their effects. So you call the Haunted. I typically recommend Call the Haunting Lizard, because when Lizard is sent to the graveyard, he'll send a Shadoll monster from the deck to the graveyard. So you can send any one you want, but I would typically send Falcon, because Falcon will special summon himself onto the field. That way at least have a monster to protect me. But you can send anything you want. If you want to send Shadoll Beast instead and draw a card, you know, that doesn't hurt, right? Basically, you turn Call Haunted into a Jar of Greed, or you could turn into an MST if you send if you know, bring back Lizards, use Lizard to send Shadoll Dragon to a graveyard, MST something, or you could turn into a Rhoda and, you know, send use Lizard's effect to send Hedgehog, and you can add Shadoll Dragon to your hand if you want. That way you can have a 1900 beast stick you can use to run your opponent over with. So that's always good, right? Foolish Burial, really good card in this deck, because obviously it helps you get any of the Shadoll's effect off. It helps you fill up the graveyard with a monster, so you can summon Exodios, especially if you're in that scenario like I was talking about. You use Exodios, put other monsters back in your deck to summon the first one, then you can use Foolish Burial to send a Shadoll monster to the graveyard to get that Shadoll's effect, monster's effect, right? And then summon your second Exodios, and then go into Goose Off Max. So again, you can make him, but you might not, but you can. If you use Foolish Burial on Falcon, you'll be able to special summon him onto the field face down, so you pretty much will have a tribute fodder, or at least a monster to defend yourself with. And of course, during your opponent's turn, if he gets flipped, you know, you can bring back a Shadoll monster that's already in the graveyard onto the field. Typically, I use when I use Foolish Burial, I send Lizard to the graveyard to, you know, activate all the other Shadoll's effects. So that way I thin out the deck even faster and get, you know, a Shadoll effect like Falcon, for example. Or you can send Hedgehog and add any of the beasts, the Shadoll beasts, the Shadoll monsters to your hand, whichever one you want. So it basically becomes reinforcement of the army. If you send beasts with Foolish Burial, it basically becomes a Upstart Goblin, right? You send Dragon to the graveyard, it becomes an MST. You send Lizard, basically becomes another Foolish Burial. That can send a spell or trap if you Shadoll if you need one in the grave. So versatility, it could be anything you need when you need it, as long as you have the monsters in the deck to use it, right? Evil Sworn Exciton Knight, because he's broken. Number 101, because he's broken. Mind Stroke, extra defense, plus he comes in handy to get rid of any monsters that have high attack below defense. You know, like maybe an Exodios or something, or whatever is a major threat. Corn, good against monsters that can't be destroyed by battle, or you don't want to destroy them by battle or card effect. You can use Corn, good against what they're called, the Cosmic Dragons. Down Magician, because a lot of the 4-stars here are spellcasters. Pretty much all the monsters are spellcasters, except for Deadscythe and Eatos. Those are not fair spellcasters. You could create her, and she's a 25 trampler as long as she has the materials, and that's always useful, especially if you're going up against Cosmic Dragons. Most of their attackers have low defense, so as long as you can switch them to defense, you can just run them over, deal piercing damage. Evil Sworn Tornadoes. Once per turn, either place turn, you can detach material on this face up card. It's not affected by your opponent's card effects. Good against Exciton Knight, Black Rose, you know, JD, things of that nature, which is always good. The ability to have a monster that can survive the power of other monsters. So basically, it's a rank 4 Felgrand, basically, but only against monster effects. Can't argue with that. Rank 4 Felgrand, right? Gustav Max, of course, because you can make him deal 2,000 points of damage once per turn by detaching material, and he can still attack 3,000. Black Rose, just because you can make it. Sometimes you need to clear the field. Moonlight Rose, because it's a light, it helps you make Nephilim if you need to. Plus, it has a really good effect. Arcanite Magician, because most of the monsters in here, like Midrash, you see it's a spellcaster, Beast is a spellcaster, you know what I mean? So they meet the spellcaster type monster requirement to make him. He has a good effect. He's light, so you can obviously use him to make Midrash after you use up to 2 materials to pop 2 cards on the field. Leo Drake, because you can make him, and he's awesome, so why not, right? El Shadoll Nephilim requires a Shadoll monster and a light monster. That's why you have those light synchros and XYZs. Must first be fusion summoned. If this card is special summoned, you can send 1 Shadoll card from your deck to the graveyard. You can send obviously Shadoll Fusion. But if you use Shadoll Fusion, obviously, to make her, you already have one in the graveyard, so you don't need to send another one. But you can send anything you want. You can send any of the Shadoll monsters to get their effects. Typically, I would send Lizard. Lizard would send one of the other ones, and thin out the deck even more. Especially if you use the Shadoll Fusion's secondary effect. If you had lights in the deck, and you send, obviously you want to send Lizard, get Lizard's effect. Send something else, you'll thin out like by 5 cards or some shit like that, right? So it's always good to thin out the deck. If this card battles a special summon monster, at the start of the damage test, destroy. So basically it's a catastrope. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Shadoll spell or trap card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So that's always good. Even as materials, the Shadoll monsters as well as the fusions will get their effects, even if they're materials. So that's also good. And get the Shadoll Fusion back and keep refusing. You just have infinite fusion capabilities, right? And then with Exodios helping you put the fusions back in the extra deck if they do get defeated, all the better, right? Plus Exodios is dark, so he can be used as fusion material to refuse. It's lots of synergy. This deck's been well thought out, right? Shadoll Midrash. This card cannot be destroyed by a battle or by your opponent's card effects. Neither player can special summon more than once per turn. That applies after she's summoned. So after she's summoned, you still can special summon 1 more monster that turn, because you can only special summon 1 monster that turn other than her. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Shadoll spell or trap card, so you'll just get back to fusion, Shadoll Fusion, so you can refuse if you need a remaker. And that's the end of the deck profile.